Hi, I'm Randall Wilcox, and welcome to the People's Alternative. What is the People's Alternative? It's a unique way of influencing our elected representatives to finally help us. It's your source to information that really matters to you, and it's information that you won't hear through the media. It's your source to facts about how our government is slowly but surely intervening in your life with laws and regulations that will change your life dramatically and alarmingly in ways that can destroy your Fifth Amendment rights to personal property and much more. But most importantly, the People's Alternative is your alternative to feeling helpless and feeling you can't make a difference. Now, unless you're willing to risk losing your way of life, then give me a few minutes and you'll see how you can stand with your fellow countrymen and secure your freedoms forever. Join us and you'll find yourself making a difference immediately. If you choose not to join in, then the next time you find yourself blaming Washington, D.C., like we all have, remember the People's Alternative is here. In just days, we have an election, and like always, the primary focus is on the president and the balance of power between the parties. Will we be disappointed in this election too, or will fate somehow treat us right? Will anything change for us? If so, will the change be short term or long term? We all know that effective long-term reform is very much needed, but very unlikely. We desperately need that reform, but it's doubtful we'll get it without fighting for it for ourselves. Getting that reform is what the People's Alternative is about. We need improved conditions in government that will end the abuses, and we all know executive orders and the like won't accomplish that. Hasn't history proven that with politics, it's a perpetual game of tearing apart what the other party or administration has done? Why should we expect anything different from this election? Why do we continue letting today's childish politics threaten our future? Over and over, all we hear are the problems we have as a country, and most of the bad news is a product of political misconduct or government misdoing. Just think, the nightly news would only take a few minutes if it wasn't for politics. And during the campaign season, doesn't the media like spinning the news in their favored political direction? And don't they have a way of making facts and truth seem like something rare? Fact is, our national elections have become a pointless exercise in futility. Everyone's talking nonsense, finger pointing, casting blame, and nobody's suggesting anything that will permanently fix our problems. Maybe it's time we start making suggestions. Aren't you tired of being left out, left behind, and left wondering? Speaking of wondering, don't you wonder who's really running our country? You'll likely be surprised by what you learn here. You'll wonder how government has gotten so out of control, and you'll realize we need to change that as soon as possible. It's concerning. Here at the People's Alternative, we've learned that government is more out of control than many people realize, and getting it in control is much more urgent than you may think. We have a plan to change the people being left behind, left out, and we'll only need a few minutes of your time weekly. Join us, and you'll no longer fear being sold out or bought out either. With the People's Alternative, you now have the opportunity to get involved in the democratic process of government at all levels. For far too long, we stood by and remained mostly silent while watching our government continually fail us. We must start taking an active role. We can no longer stand by and hope for change. We've had the technology to do what we're about to suggest for years. For way too long, we've remained silent while trusting, hoping, and praying instead of acting. With the help of technology, we're going to change that. To wait any longer is way too risky. The framers designed our Constitution with the people, their liberties, their right to self-governance, and their need to feel connected to their institutions in mind. We need to finally start using our 10th Amendment rights to safeguard against federal overreach. By getting involved, we'll feel ownership in our governmental institutions and increasingly grow attached to them as well as our elected representatives. We must stop talking and complaining and start doing. Through active participation in government, we'll realize that we have power and we can pass along to future generations how we've learned to use that power to improve and sustain our democracy. Unfortunately, government will always need our oversight, but we can do that without micromanaging it. Let's admit it. Individually, we're not going to examine the Library of Congress for legislative information or the Federal Register for notices of proposed rulemaking. Besides, acting alone, you'd be ignored and wouldn't make a difference anyway. We know that all too well. We need our fellow citizens to support us. We need each other in massive numbers, and that's where the People's Alternative comes in. We'll do the detailed work, and individually you only have to spend minutes of your time. Our elected representatives, we all know, are being outmaneuvered or overwhelmed and obviously need our help. We know it. They know it. They just won't admit it. We need to get involved before it's too late. We've been cautioned of the dangers of doing nothing. You've heard quotes from our founding fathers warning of risks in keeping democracy, but outsiders could see it as well, and one specifically comes to mind. You may be familiar with the French political philosopher Alexis de Tocqueville. He's best known for his work in analyzing the political and social systems of the United States in the early 19th century. In his analysis, Tocqueville made an observation that explained it best, and we should consider his views. He believed that if individuals focus solely on their own pursuits and interests, it could result in a lack of community and civic engagement. This atomization, as I believe he called it, could lead to a uniformity where everyone is lost in the crowd and the collective power of the people could diminish. He saw this as a potential danger to democracy, as a lack of engagement by the people could lead to a despotism or an unhealthy political system of government and unlimited power and authority, an autocracy or maybe an absolutism, if you will. Do you feel like we've had that during some administrations? Does that remind you of what we're experiencing now? We must ask ourselves if we're so afraid of speaking out that we are willing to individually stand silent, go along, and accept whatever is forced on us by an authoritarian group. We have a plan that will work if we all stand together. We'll give you facts and tools, and we'll get results reversing the direction our country is going. So go to the People's Alternative site, join, and give us a few minutes of your time weekly, and you'll help change the nation for the better and feel good about making that change. We'll help you. We'll keep you informed with references and podcasts from experts, and we'll always give facts. And we'll only focus on facts rather than speculation and hearsay, and on offices or agencies and not people. No name calling or degrading here. However, we will provide accurate information on who supports us and who doesn't. You'll know exactly who to vote in and who to vote out. You're likely wondering, what's our leverage and strength? You're likely asking what will convince our elected representatives to finally work for us and with us. Let's do the math. We have 258 million voting-age citizens. There are 168 million registered voters. There are 47 million Democrats, 36 million Republicans, and 500,000 Libertarians, and 250,000 Green Party members. So party members total about 84 million. That leaves 174 million non-affiliated citizens, and that's more than twice as many as the combined parties. Considering only registered voters, that's still 84 million and equals the combined parties. So the numbers are on our side, and we haven't accounted for the number of party-affiliated voters who are dissatisfied and want positive change. Interestingly, according to the Gallup poll, among registered voters, In February 2021, 39% of Democrats and 92% of Republicans disapproved of Congress. But by October of this year, 73% of Democrats disapproved, while the disapproval by Republicans remained at 92%. Now, according to the Gallup poll in February 2021, 65% of voting age Americans disapproved of Congress, but this month, those disapproving had risen to 84%. So right now, 217 million voting age Americans disapprove of Congress, and that number exceeds the total number of registered voters by 49 million. So that means there are 49 million non-affiliated voting age Americans who don't have a voice through their vote. Even more importantly today, 34 million registered Democrats, 33 million registered Republicans that are dissatisfied with Congress. It's clear that the outrage over Congress is growing rapidly. Many are unhappy, and with good reason. We know many of you haven't registered to vote because you feel it's pointless. Join us, and maybe you'll soon feel differently and register to vote. By following us, you'll see the potential and realize both your vote and your voice will count. If you think about it, we have something more powerful than the money the lobbyists throw around. We have well over 100 million voters with 100 million votes to use to hold our elected representatives accountable. With those numbers, we'll get their attention. Now, the good representatives will act immediately and welcome our help. And no doubt, the bad actors will be reluctant, but will come to realize they must join us too. If they don't, it will show on our accountability page of our website, and you'll know to vote them out. So go to the website at www.thepeoplesalternative.com, check it out, and join. Take a look under the debate platform at legislation reform, and you'll see that we already have 3 legislation proposals that the TPA feels must happen, and we know you'll see the obvious effect of those. We've received a recommendation, and based on our discussion so far, it looks like it should go on our debate platform soon. And hopefully, you will make a recommendation for necessary legislation yourself. We'll listen and we'll act. The next podcast will outline the TPA's objective and strategy, and will include a short tutorial on the website and answer any questions you may have for now. Also remember, we said that being active here will take very little of your time, and in making that so, we'll keep our podcast surveys and notices short and to the point. The only exception will be the podcast that hosts experts with important and accurate information and advice. We believe you'll become so interested in what you hear that it won't matter. But even so, we'll be as efficient with your time as we possibly can be. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been given freedoms and a way of life that we can't take for granted. Our founders used the term one nation under God for a reason, declaring the United States as a nation under God had a purpose of unity, because they knew that the teachings of God would never change, are absolute and unifying. God gave us the gifts of instincts and common sense, which have taught us the difference between right and wrong, good and evil, and how to overcome weaknesses, or how strength overcomes weaknesses, to protect ourselves and each other. He gave us those gifts to do his work, and protecting what has been given to us is our responsibility according to God. Now, whether you believe or not, we may not want to risk taking that for granted. It would be like overlooking the everyday miracles and blessings that can make our lives run smoother. Don't pass on what may be our only opportunity to salvage what we have and gain back what we've lost. Until the next podcast, I'm Randall Wilcox, asking you to stand faithfully side by side, enjoy life, and smile at everyone you pass.